The kingdom of my divine will in the midst of creatures. Book of Heaven, Volume 31, Part 5. October 30th, 1932. One who lives in the divine will emits three acts: concurring, assisting, and receiving. All the divine qualities continuously call one who lives in his will to form her and raise her as similar to them. The sea of the divine volition continues to murmur in my soul. Oh, how sweet, penetrating, and engulfing is its murmuring! It engulfs me so much that I murmur along, as if this divine sea were my own. And fused together with it, I am unable to do anything other than what the Supreme Will itself does. But while I was murmuring love, adoration, joys, happiness, beauty, which entered into me like many veins, my sweet Jesus, visiting his little daughter, told me, "My blessed daughter, your littleness in the interminable sea of our volition is our greatest joy. You must know that one who lives in it emits concurring, assisting, and receiving acts. In the first one, she concurs with the very acts of her Creator. Since the will of one is that of the other, there is nothing that this divine will does in which it does not put the creature to concur together in its operating. And here is how my will is no longer alone. It feels the inseparability of one who lives in it. In its acts, it feels a finite will within the infinite, loving together and concurring to the multiplicity and the incessant operating of our works. So, one who lives in our will breaks our solitude, and as though naturally, we feel her with us, concurring in our divine sea, and with a continuous pouring of her littleness into us, she acquires the rights of our volition to do what it itself does. Ah, you cannot comprehend what our contentment, what our joy is in feeling the creature concurring together to do nothing other than what we ourselves do. From the concurring act arises the assisting act. She concurs and assists. There is nothing we do in which she does not concur and assist. How can we hide from one who is already with us, concurs and holds her place in our volition? But will she only concur and assist? Ah, no, another act arises, and it is that of receiving as her own, and as our own, the infinity of our love and of our works, so much so that her littleness has no place where to put a love and operating so great, and therefore she remains in our will herself, with all the deposit of the goods she has received, and this by right, because she has something of her own. You must know that everything that is done in our will is so great that the creature is incapable of possessing it and restricting it within herself. Therefore she feels the need to make use of the same will in which she has operated, in order to keep the deposit of it. More so, since everything that the creature does in our will, even the little "I love you," the little offerings of her actions, her littleness at the mercy of our will, is nothing other than places that she takes in our will. And the more space she takes, the more rights she acquires, and feels within herself the divine strength that enraptures her continuously, giving her the flight, so that her life may be formed wholly in the divine will. And since this way of living was to be of all creatures, this was the purpose of our creation, but to our highest bitterness, we see that almost all live at the low level of their human will. Now, one who lives at the height of our volition sees the great evil of those who live down below, and having our receiving act at her disposal, that is, the infinity of our love and the multiplicity of our works, she places them at our and creatures' disposal, so that we may be requited by the love of all, and they may receive graces, light, love, for as much as it befits their littleness. So, between heaven and earth, we have the intermediary before us and before creatures, who with the power of our divine Fiat wants to bind heaven and earth. And how not to content one who lives in our will? It would be as if we wanted to discontent our very selves. Then I continued my abandonment in the supreme volition, and oh, how happy I felt in thinking that in the Fiat I was concurring to everything that the Supreme Being was doing. My will, fused in theirs, was the great secret and the portentous prodigy, that my littleness was as though entangled into doing and concurring to everything that the Divine Majesty does. Neither could I put myself aside, nor could they rid themselves of me, because it was their very will that had caught me into it, and it was so immense that I could not find the way to get out, and wherever I might go, I would find the divine will operating, that enclosed me in its own work, to concur. Nor was I an intruder. It itself had stretched out its arms to me, to hold me as its conquest. More so, since on both sides there was highest happiness, for me to stay there, and for the divine volition to keep my littleness clasped to itself. So I am unable to tell with clarity how I wandered about within this interminable light. And while I was all amazed, my dear life, my sovereign Jesus, added, "My little daughter of my volition, the living in my will is a continuous call that we make to the creature into our divine qualities. Our being is always operating, and our attributes are always in motion. But since it is our will that forms the work and the motion inside our being, one who lives in it, then, feels that our will calls her now into the power, now into our wisdom, now into our love, now into mercy, now into divine justice, goodness, and beauty, In sum, all of our attributes, with powerful voices, call the creature into themselves, that she may be formed and grow according to their qualities. They would feel dishonored, if it could be, that one who lives with that same will by which they are animated were not similar to them, or did not enjoy their prerogatives. That they tolerate littleness, this does not harm them, because it is known that the finite can never reach the infinite, but rather littleness gives them more honor, because all the beauty and goodness that they see in it is all their work. But for it to be dissimilar to them, this never. Hear then the whispering and the continuous voicing that one who lives in our will hears. These are the continuous calls that our Supreme Being makes to his beloved creature by means of his qualities. Above all, because it does not want to be, and is unable to be, and it cannot be without her. Because our will, being one, possesses such virtue of union and of inseparability, that everything that freely enters into it loses the separative virtue, and our highest goodness feels the need of love to keep with itself what belongs to it, and forms a particle of its very will. Here is why, then, our divine qualities claim into their motion and works she who is animated by their same will to live life together. They would feel a tearing and their will broken if they did not have her with them. Was it not a tearing what the first man made from inside our will by withdrawing from it? And this tearing was so grave as to turn the whole order of creation upside down for him. And he reached the point of rejecting his Creator with all the current of his divine graces. Therefore, one who lives in our will is the restoration of this tearing so painful, that cost us so much. And our divine being arms all our attributes all around her, so that that same shot may not be repeated to us again. And as she lives together with us, both she and we may be happy. And if you wanted to doubt what I tell you, it would be a sign that you have not comprehended well how much I love the creature, and how, in order to have her with me, my love makes me reach excesses, delirium, and follies. After all, I have all the rights to love her, because she is mine, and done by me. And if you are mine, I am yours, and therefore you too have the rights to love me. And if you did not love me, you would neglect a most sacrosanct duty toward the one who gave you your being and loves you so much. Therefore, on both sides, let us love each other, always, and very much. And love shall not stay still. It shall make new devices of love arise. Fiat. November 6, 1932. How God does deeds and not words. One who operates in the divine will operates in eternity. One who operates outside of it operates in time. The words of Jesus are works. My little mind felt filled with the sweet lessons of my lovable Jesus, and concerned, wanted to arouse doubts and fears in me. And although I know that when Jesus wants it, he makes the soul reach wherever he wants, and the way he wants, nor are there laws for him, or does he let anyone dictate to him the laws, or does he pay heed to human views? On the contrary, he always comes up with new things to confound them, nor does he let anyone step in front of the power of his love. As many doubts and difficulties as they may speak and raise. Even more, he makes fun of them, leaving them in their chatters, while he does deeds with the soul whom he has chosen. Yet, in spite of all this, my frailty remembered my sorrowful fortunes, and I felt shaken, and I said, who knows how many doubts they will raise on this way of speaking of Jesus? And I felt all afflicted and oppressed. But Jesus, who watches over my poor soul, repeating his little visit, all goodness, told me, "Blessed daughter, do not be concerned about anything. My will has the virtue of making everything that does not belong to it die, and of changing the very weaknesses and miseries of the creature into life of light. Everything I tell you is not her own virtue, but virtue and power of my will, which can do anything. My will is symbolized by the sun, which as it rises dispels the darkness. It makes it disappear and die. And as it invests the earth, it gives its life of light to all things. The same with my will. As the creature lets herself be invested by the power of its light, darkness departs from her, her evils die, and are replaced with the life of light. And if one does not comprehend this, it means that he is illiterate, and therefore does not comprehend either what my will is, or what it can do, or where one who lives in it, and lets himself be invested by its light, can reach. Therefore, let them talk. I will do deeds, and they shall remain with words. If they have not made a deep study, what do you expect them to comprehend? They may be learned, doctors in other things, but as for my will, they shall always be the little ignorant ones. Therefore, let us put them aside, and let us think of doing, not words, but true deeds. You must know that for one who operates in my divine will, her works, her acts, her adorations, her love toward God, are done and formed in the sphere of eternity, because my divine will is eternal, and everything that can be done in it does not get out from within eternity, and remains confirmed forever as divine and perennial works, adorations, love. They can be called works of the creature transfused in God, in which God himself has operated. What is human does not enter either into the divine will or into eternity. And if it enters, it must lose its life to reacquire the life and the works of God Himself. Therefore, one who lives in our will is looked upon by us, not in time, but in eternity. And for our own decorum and honor, her acts must be our acts, her love our love. We feel that the creature comes into our will to give us the occasion to operate and to give her our love, so as to make ourselves loved with our own love. Everything must be ours, and everything she does must be coined with the image of her Creator. On the other hand, one who operates outside of my divine will operates in time, loves, adores in time, is looked upon in time, and everything that is done in time is works without confirmation. On the contrary, they must wait for the judgment in order to be either confirmed or condemned, or purified by the fire of purgatory. And they are looked upon as works of creatures, in which the fullness of sanctity, fullness of love, and fullness of infinite value can be lacking. The complete opposite for one who lives in our will, since those are our acts. Everything is fullness of sanctity, of love, of beauty, of grace, of light, and of infinite value. There is such distance between one and the other that if all would comprehend it, oh, how attentive they would be to live in our volition, so as to be emptied of the human act and filled with the operating act of a divine will. Therefore be attentive, and do nothing which is not filtered and emptied by the light of my will, and you will give me the highest contentment of setting to work and of being allowed to operate as the God that I am. So, in it, do I await you always, to move my step to come toward you, to stretch out my arms to you, so as to operate within you, to open my mouth and spend time with you in sweet conversation, so as to manifest to you the arcane secrets of my supreme Fiat. After this, I was thinking about everything that my highest good Jesus had told me, as if doubts and difficulties wanted to arise within me. And he, with an unspeakable mastery, told me, "My good daughter, do not be surprised at what I tell you. Everything is possible to my will. The impossible does not exist. As long as the creature lets herself be led by it, everything is done. You must know that everything I tell you serves to form, order, harmonize the kingdom of my divine will. I am repeating the way I had in creation. I pronounced the Fiat, and then kept silent. And even though they are called days, in those times the day did not exist. Therefore, those could be even epochs in which I formed the great machine of the universe. I would speak and operate, and my delight for the work that my words was producing was so great that one fiat of mine would dispose me and snatch from me another fiat, and then yet another, up to the point when my fiat stopped, when I saw that nothing was lacking to its work, but rather everything was sumptuousness, beauty, order, and harmony. And in order to enjoy my works, I remained in them as life and guard of my own fiat. My fiat itself, with its power, bound me in my works, and rendered me inseparable from them. Everything is in pronouncing the first fiat, giving my first lessons, placing in the soul the power and the work of my fiat. And once I have started, I can say that I never end it unto work fulfilled. What would you have said had I left the creation half done? It would not have been a work worthy of me, or an exuberant love of mine. Therefore, one fiat draws and snatches another one from me. It forms the void in the creature, in which to place the order, the harmony of my operating fiat. It disposes her and imposes itself on me, to make me give more lessons, so as to form many acts together, which united among themselves form the new creation, more beautiful, more artful than the machine of the universe, which must serve for the kingdom of my own will. Therefore, each word of mine is a work. It is one more outpouring of love. It is to give completion to the first fiat that was started. And as they hold hands, the first and the last to be pronounced, they shall form the braiding of the new creation of my kingdom in the depth of the soul, which, transmitted to posterity, shall be the bearer, more than the very universe, of goods, of sanctity, of graces to the human generations. See then what one more word or one word less means. One more lesson or one lesson less. They are works, and if they are not received, by not taking them into account, my fiat does not draw me and captivate me to pronounce more fiats, and therefore the work shall not be complete, and I shall wait and repeat my lessons. And if I repeat them, it is a sign that you have not taken what I told you into account, and I want nothing to be missing, because everything that I must tell you about my will has been established. Therefore, be attentive, and let me do what I want. After this, I was thinking of what is written at the beginning of this chapter. That is, that one who operates in the divine will operates in eternity. One who operates outside of it operates in time. And I thought to myself, and why this great difference? And my highest love, Jesus, added, "My daughter, it is easy to comprehend it. Suppose you were given a medal of gold, with which, by working it, you would form many beautiful objects of gold. But if instead of gold you were given a medal of copper, of iron, you would not be able to change the copper and the iron into gold metal. Therefore you would make objects of copper or of iron. Now, compare the objects of iron with those of gold. What is the difference in their value? Yet, it took you the same amount of time to work them. You made similar objects. But because of the difference in the metal, those of gold surpass in a surprising way in value, in beauty, in fineness, those of iron. Now, for one who operates even what is good with his human will, since he finds himself in time to cross his way, it can be said that everything he does are temporary works, subject to 1,000 miseries. They shall always be human works of minimum value, because they lack the golden thread of light of my will. On the other hand, one who operates in it shall have the golden thread in his power. Not only this, but he shall have his Creator operating in his act. He shall have, not time, but eternity in his power. Therefore, because of the mere difference between divine will and human will, there is no comparison that can stand between one and the other. The living in my will is precisely this. My will holds the prime and operating act in the creature. It acts like a teacher who wants the essay he has assigned to his pupil to be developed. He himself gives him the paper, puts the pen in his hand, places his own hand over the hand of the disciple, and develops the essay, as the hand of the teacher and that of the disciple write together. Now, should it not be said that the teacher was operating, and has placed his own science, his own beautiful handwriting, into that essay, in such a way that no one shall be able to find a shadow of defect? However, the pupil has not moved. He has undergone the work of the teacher. He has let his hand be guided with no resistance. On the contrary, he was happy in seeing the beautiful ideas, the precious concepts, into which he felt himself being enraptured. Now, should it not be said that the fortunate disciple possesses the value, the merit, of the work of his teacher? The same happens to one who lives in my will. The creature must undergo the act that my volition wants to do. She must not put herself aside, and my will must place what is needed and befitting to its divine acts. And our goodness is so great that we make her the possessor of our own acts. On the other hand, to one who does not live in our will, would happen as when the teacher assigns the essay to his disciple, but does not make himself the actor of the essay of the disciple. He leaves it up to his freedom. in a way that he could make some mistakes. And he does it according to his small capacity, because he does not feel, over and within himself, either the capacity or the operating act of his teacher. And the essay is nothing other than our grace, which never leaves the creature, even in the little good that she does. And according to the dispositions of the creature, it offers itself either as operating act or as assisting act, because there is no good that is done which is not helped and sustained by divine grace. Fiat. You have reached the end of the Book of Heaven, Volume 31, Part 5. Fiat.